No matter where you are on your spiritual awakening journey, chances are it all started off with asking a lot of questions. You see, when we start to wake up spiritually and all through the journey, we can sometimes feel that gentle tug or nudge, or sometimes just a drop kick into that question and that feeling of there's something bigger going on. Maybe this is something you're just starting to question and feel, or maybe this is something that you're becoming more and more comfortable and used to, is connecting to the source of the something bigger going on. You see, our mind has this way of wanting to continually ask questions to make sense of things. It can make things really muddy at times. We get into cycles of repeating thoughts and the constant questioning of what's happening, why is this happening, what do I do? And when we are up here, we can really get stuck. If you haven't watched the video, Racing Minds and Letting Go, I encourage you to watch that. I talk a lot about what letting go is. I'm sitting outside today, one, because it's an absolutely beautiful day, and two, because I want to talk to you about the energy of the seasons and fall. No matter when you're watching this, you see, nature has all sorts of messages for us all the time. Sometimes in our seeking, maybe you've been drawn to astrology or tarot readings, anything that can help shed some light and help guide and direct you to the place you need to go to find these answers. The place that we need to go to find these answers is within. And how we, listen to astrology and take the tips and the pointing arrows that, connect us to the current energies or the guidance that you might get in a reading from an intuitive. Nature signals those same things, has those same pointing arrows. If you take the energy of fall, you might have seen those kind of pictures and things on social media that have gone around for years about, do as the trees do this time of year, let go. That's true. Fall is a time of letting go. But it's not what you think it is. You see, oftentimes our mind will say, just let go of something, and that just means it's dead and gone. Finished. When the trees let go of their leaves, they fall to the ground. Mother Earth catches them and holds them. They get transmuted back into nutrients for everything to benefit. But what really happens when trees lose their leaves is they pull in all the goodness from the leaves, all the energy. They pull all the sugar in. That's what gives us the beautiful fall color. I spent many, many years in the plant and tree business in Oregon. And I walked many a day amongst the trees. And it's really interesting to me how much they had to teach me. And it was when I started connecting to the energy of the seasons in a deeper way about a year or two ago that things really started to get clear. See, when the tree pulls back that energy and the sugars, it pulls them into the trunk, the stem, the center. What ends up happening is all that gets pulled in, which then creates the letting go from the leaf and the tree. Yes, it happens in fall every year, but which day? We don't know. It's all about divine timing, much like our lives. But the point being is it brings in all this sugar, all this sweetness, all the energy to the center. What if we were to do that during the fall? Because when we bring in all the experiences, all the feelings, all the memories, all of the things that we've gone through over the past few seasons, inside, get centered and balanced, and take that deep dive, that's where we'll start to find and discover the answers to those big questions that the mind has. When we pull in and center and have the courage to go into our heart, because that's the other thing fall asks us to do, is to be courageous, to go into the darkness, to take that deep dive into the soul. Oftentimes we connect the season of fall to the energy of the bear. The bears know in the fall, they start preparing their den. They prepare to go underground into the darkness and rest. They could go into this space, rebalance, rejuvenate. They take all of the bounty of their harvest with them, stored as fat, and they go into deep slumber. That deep slumber for us can be a great time of reflection through meditation, to take the journey into the underworld, to face our shadows, to see what things need to be brought to the surface to heal. Because you see, the tree, just like the trees, they bring all that in, and then it flushes down the trunk into the roots, and it helps feed the roots. Fall and winter may look like a time out in nature of not any real growth, because we associate the growth of trees with the explosion of spring, and that is true. There is an outward and upward growth during spring, but in fall and winter, that is the time in which the trunk grows bigger. The trunk expands. We would call this calipering up. That we knew that in the season of fall to late winter, that the trees would actually get bigger at the base. Why do they need to get bigger at the base? To support the outward, upward growth of spring and summer, just like us. If we don't do the connecting and the hibernating and the feeling and the examining and the going within during this time of year, our roots and our base isn't as supported in the spring when we're going through that huge birth of growth and the expansion and the reaching up and higher. So what looks like a very sleepy time of year is actually just as important as the times we see the big growth and the bloom. The growth and the bloom doesn't happen without the pulling in and the calipering up of fall and winter. See, last week we talked about you might need to size up. If I were to just think of a tree or anything in nature and think about it getting bigger, I don't know about you, but my mind immediately goes to that big upward structure up top, springtime. But actually that sizing up is sizing up of your innerness, your core, your trunk, your roots, your health. If we allow the seasons to show us the deeper meaning and live like the seasons, we are in the more natural rhythm of the universe. How will you move through fall and allow yourself to take the deep dive? It was interesting in my journey this morning. I was shown the vision of, I don't know many of you if you've done this, but like when we were kids, we would throw things into the swimming pool, pennies or toys or whatever, and we would take that deep dive under the surface to get the treasure. The treasure is in the deep dive. And there is such a resistance to the word healing, take a deep dive, mind doesn't like that because it can't make sense of your feelings. But this time of year and always is never asking you to try to make sense of your feelings. It's asking you to feel your feelings, to take the deep dive, to collect the treasure from the depths. Because when you take those deep dives, collect the treasures of the depths, face your healing, be courageous. You're feeding your roots, you're feeding your core, you're feeding your inside, you're honoring that inner child, you're honoring your higher self, you're honoring that higher power when you take those deep dives. And when you take those deep dives, just like in the swimming pool, you come up with the prize. And the prize is more joy, more creativity, a deeper feeling of connectedness to one that is ultimately mirrored and reflected in your outside environment, in your connections with people. To life. So the next time that you see that picture that goes around that says, be like the trees and let go. Be like the trees and go within. Honor yourself. Honor your heart space. Because all the questions and the answers you seek are right here. I recently talked about this in an interview I did, where when we were preparing, we were going to do a journey with Jen afterwards and then have questions. And if you haven't had a journey with me, I encourage you to check one out. You can do one in a personal session, or there's some things online that you can check out in my collaboration section. There's a great journey from this interview in the collaboration section in YouTube. But when I was talking about setting up in the outline of the interview, the questions were going to come last. And I said, no, let's do the questions first. Because every single time, without fail, after I do a journey with someone, which is a deep meditative state, when we come out on the other side together, I'll ask, do you have any questions? And I get this really blank look. And then I'll jump in and say, from your heart. And I'll get a smile or a no. Because when we go into that deep meditative state, that shamanic journey, we then get the clarity. We can see the visions and we feel what's happening. And then it takes us out of our mind where there are no questions, to where at the place of just knowing, the place of just knowing what is, you have that wisdom inside of you. And the last thing that I wanted to do in that particular situation, in that interview, was to take us all on a journey into our heart and then force everybody back up into their head to ask a bunch of questions that they already just got the answers to. I'm sure many different variations of cultures have a similar thing. But there is a saying, a Lakota saying, that says the longest journey that you ever take in this life is from your head to your heart. It is a lifetime practice in our humanness to be conscious of moving from here to here. I'll often say that that's the life journey. And it's also a trip that we can take 1,000 times a day. Being mindful, are we here or here? Are we in that presence of feeling? Or in the thoughts of thinking and questioning everything? This will never give you the answers you seek when it comes to your spiritual journey. The depths in your heart and your soul and your center and the hibernation cave, that darkness, the plunging into the shadow self, asking questions and being curious, will connect you to the knowing that you came into this life with, that you've just forgotten. Allow this time, this fall, to go into that space of reflectiveness where you can start to remember. If you would like to have a personal session with me, you can visit jenhuber.com. And just like nature, astrology, intuitive readings, we'll ask for that help. We'll bring in that energy of having someone walk into the darkness with you to help you remember. Because the answers you seek will never be found outside of yourself. However, sometimes we need a little help walking there.